Start the meeting. All right. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was going to make a statement tonight, but I'm going to hold it and make it a little later. There's been a lot of email traffic lately, and it disturbs me very much. And I'd like to consult the school committee before I make any comments. Let me move on to the next part of the agenda, which is public comment. And I would just like to remind everybody that I know it's frustrating for some of you that we don't reply to you during public comment, but we can't unless it's on the agenda. So the school committee has rules that are just a little different than other government bodies. So it's not that we're ignoring you, and it's not that we're not hearing you. It's just that we are not allowed to respond unless it's on the agenda. Having said that, tonight's presentations, since this is a workshop, I will entertain questions from the public, particularly on the in-person learning, since the public didn't have an opportunity to speak at the last meeting. So having said all of that, is there any public comment?
Before you start, do you want me to time them?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I don't see anybody's hand raised. So since I'm going to let parents and citizens comment on the presentations, I think we'll move forward. If I've missed somebody, they could let me know. I'm going to pull the consent agenda tonight, and we will vote on these meetings at the April business meeting. So let's just move straight to the presentations. Oh, by the way, I have notified Ms. Campbell, and she will be correcting the minutes for the next meeting. So Dr. Bryce, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so we would like to begin today's presentations with the 2021-2022 school year calendar options. And so we're actually going to present just one option for our public and our members of the school committee, just so that we can be as focused as possible. I would ask that Dr. Santa get ready to present, and Rose or Ryan, whoever's running the board today, can you put that presentation up, please?
Is everyone able to see the calendar that I have up?
I can, Diane. Everybody else?
Yeah, I can see it, Diane.
Yes.
Okay, great,
Yes.
thank you. So good evening, everyone. The calendar that we're proposing this evening was developed with input from our principals and also BWEA leadership. It's based on the statewide calendar and has the same school vacation days and weeks, as well as 4 statewide professional development days, and those are shaded in blue. In addition, we have added in 2 district PD days that are shaded in gray. And this year's calendar is consistent with, the calendar for next year would be consistent with this year's calendar in that we would start after Labor Day. And we're proposing the last date of school would be June 23rd. One of the biggest areas of discussion is where to place the professional development days. We did our best to spread them out throughout the year so that we could support professional development initiatives that we have going on in the district, including the letters training, the implementation of new ELA curriculum and math curriculum, as well as K through 12 training focused on social emotional learning and diversity to ensure that all students feel welcome and supported in our schools. And then also our ongoing look at analysis of data, assessment results, and planning for intervention and enrichment, and especially looking towards next year, being able to address learning loss as a result of distance learning. Does anyone have any questions on the calendar or the way that it's coded? If there's anything I can clarify, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, anybody have a question? Yes,
I
Phil.
do. Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, but there will be no snow days, is that correct?
The plan for snow days would be that they would be distance learning days.
So they will be counted, is that correct?
Yes, they would be counted. Yep,
So that we can assume, we can assume that the 23rd will in fact be the last day of school unless some major something happens, right?
right, unless there were an extreme weather event or other emergency that required us to close schools.
But for normal snow days on a normal year, then we can expect, I'm doing this so that the people out there can understand that they can expect to be off, that the school will be ending on the 23rd.
Correct. It's a very
Yeah.
safe bet. We don't have to worry about adding days on at the end of the year.
Right. And complimenting you and your staff. I like the 31st, I like the 1st, and I like the 2nd. 31st of October versus 2nd of October, which does not affect the students at all. It just affects the teachers having to come in and do their time, correct?
That's correct.
So that does not affect the students at all. The other thing I wanted to say is it is nice to see that you are starting after Labor Day. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As you know, I fought that a long time.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. No, I think that will work out well for us. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll speak then. I have a problem with how late they're getting out. It's awfully warm by June 23rd. And it's very close to the 4th of July. So I am concerned, and that's been a question that's been going on for a long time. Do we start before Labor Day or after Labor Day? And I understand, and I believe that we should start after Labor Day. I just think that the 23rd of June is very late to be getting out of school. So that's just a comment. That's not a criticism or a question, it's a comment. Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I'll go back on that much. Diane, is it true that the students themselves will be in school 180 days?
They will be learning for 180 days. So the blue statewide professional development days, there are 2 before the start of school and 2 during the year. They count as the 180, and it's expected that students are engaged in asynchronous learning. They're learning at home with assignments that have previously been posted by the teacher so that teachers can be freed up for professional development. However, the professional development days for our district, the 2 shown in gray, right now it is unclear if RIDE would count those towards the 180, so we have not included them in the count.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I can't see the screen, so,
Marge, I have my hand up. It's Erin.
okay, Erin, I can only see 4 people on the screen because of what Diane has up, and I don't want to have her take it down.
That's fine. I just wanted to clarify what Victor was just asking about and what Diane was just saying. So Diane, can you just clarify what 2 days you're not sure are going to count? And if the district finds out that they will, does that mean that the last day of school would be the 21st?
That's correct. So it's October 27th and February 2nd, which would be 2 district PD days. It's unclear right now if RIDE is going to allow the district PD days to count as the 180.
But that means that if they do, then our last day will move up to the 21st?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Another question, backing up on Erin. Could you clear up, Diane, as to what are students doing on the blue and gray days? Are they expected to be doing work? Is their teacher assigning them something? Is it like a virtual type of day? Is that what's happening there?
On the 2 blue days, yes, because right now they were counting as the 180. On the
Mhm.
gray days, it would depend on whether or not we're able to count them as the 180. So otherwise it would be a day off for students. But if we're able to count them as the 180, then we would expect that students would be learning at home.
Thank you, Diane. Again, that was so that the people could understand that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say quickly, Dr. Sana, that I love the fact that we finally have a statewide calendar. I think it's long overdue. I think it will help so many of our teachers, plus obviously our families who may have students in more than just Bristol Warren. So I think it's great. I mean, as long as the teachers, I presume you've discussed the PD days and so on with them, as long as the teachers are good with it, it looks pretty straightforward to me. And like I say, I really appreciate that we're sticking to a statewide calendar.
Thank you. Yes, we haven't had discussions, obviously, with all of the teachers and all of the schools, but the principals and BWEA have been involved. The statewide PD days are a great asset because they offer professional development to a variety of groups of teachers that we're often not able to plan for, such as health PE. They had some great sessions last year, so we look forward to seeing the menu that they have for us this year.
It's great. And there's such advantage to learning cross-district, with peers from other districts as well. So it's a wonderful opportunity, I think.
Absolutely.
Does anybody from the public have any questions? Please raise your hand if you do. I'm not seeing any. All right, so I'm going to assume that we're all set on the calendar. We will vote on the calendar at the business meeting. So if anybody else has any issues that they want to address with Dr. Sana, please let her know before the business meeting. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sana.
Thank you.
Dr. Bryce?
Yep, thank you. Rose or Ryan, could you please put up the PowerPoint for the return to in-person learning? Thank you. Can you give me control so I can move my own slides? It might just be easier for you guys. Go ahead and next slide, please. Keep going. All right, so just to give everybody a reminder of the presentation that we had earlier, back in March. RIDE and RIDO continue to update protocols for how we are going to bring more students back into school based on the information that they have, as well as information from the CDC. We also know that the big change has been that students no longer need to be 6 feet away, but they can actually be 3 feet away. It is important for all of our families to know that while we make this change, it does not mean that students may not be impacted. And here's how they would be impacted. Potentially, they would be impacted where we actually may have more students that would need to be quarantined as a result of a positive test. And so that's why it is important to consider allowing their students to be a part of BINEX testing, which is minimally invasive. In our students grades 6 through 12, they're able to do the test themselves. Younger students need the assistance of a trained adult, typically our nurse or a nurse's assistant that is in the building. I'd also like to share that because of the governor's direction, all school staff, not just in Bristol Warren, but across the state, were afforded the opportunity to be vaccinated, and that full coverage for those individuals that were vaccinated through the state will occur on the 15th. And so that's why we're planning for our elementary students to return. Next slide, please. Next slide. So as a district, we have focused on a requirement of a 10-day quarantine for all close contacts. It is something that we believe ensures that individuals toward the end of their quarantine period we're able to identify if they have any symptoms before they would return to school. Next slide. As we do this, as we prepare to return more students into the buildings, it is important that all of the mitigation plans and protocols that have previously been in place are continued. So that includes parents and students, older students completing the daily COVID-19 screening, that all students and staff will continue to wear masks and practice social distancing. We have completed the ventilation upgrades. Air purifiers, window fans are available in classrooms. Clearly, increased sanitation and cleaning of high-touch areas and lavatories, maintaining the use of hand sanitizer stations and frequent hand washing. Next slide. So this is one of the things that I mentioned earlier. Because more students will be sitting closer together in the classroom, if we have a confirmed case, it may require more students to be quarantined. And so that's something that we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of. It does not necessarily mean that more students will be infected, but it does mean that in terms of a mitigation strategy, likely more students would need to be quarantined. Next slide. So based on the CDC's guidance, the CDC has stated that classroom desks can move from 6 feet to now 3 feet apart. They really do not recommend physical barriers such as plexiglass. They talked about ventilation, as well as the importance of making sure that we are monitoring community transmission levels, and then guidance when interventions are necessary. Next. Let's talk about our options for teaching and learning. So when we think about what we're doing at the elementary level, can we open up the elementary plan? All right, so at the, yep, we're gonna have to make that a little larger. Even though I wear glasses, I'm gonna need a little bit more. So we're very clear about making sure that we are returning all of those students whose parents would like them to return, helping them to return to class. And so in terms of what's happening, we are changing the distance in classrooms. In some classrooms at Colt Andrews from 6 feet to 3 feet, which is in accordance with what the CDC has said, as well as what RIDO has mentioned. When we think about Gutierrez, the classroom desk at Gutierrez will move from 6 feet to 4 feet. And we believe that certainly this affords us the opportunity to do what the CDC has mentioned. All classrooms at Gutierrez will eat in the lunchroom. If you go back up to Colt Andrews very quickly, I didn't mention the lunchroom. The lunch at Colt Andrews, all lunches will be held in the cafeteria, maintaining that 6 feet of distance. Let's slide down. Keep going. Keep going. I think we can get Rockwell and Hugh Cole on the same page. Up right there. All right, so Rockwell is returning. The desk will stay at 6 feet of space. All students will continue to eat in classrooms, maintaining that 6 feet of distance. At Hugh Cole, all students, the desk will remain at 6 feet, and students will continue to eat in their classrooms, maintaining that 6 feet of distance. So that's our focus at the elementary level. We know that there are approximately 4 teachers that will be participating in synchronous teaching, where they will have students both physically in front of them as well as students at home at the same time. Let's go to KMS. For KMS, we just have in terms of how many students are coming back. So we know that we are operating somewhere in the neighborhood of about 600 students, a little less, that the desks are moving from 6 feet to 3 feet. A lunch will be provided in the cafeteria. And there is a focus on transportation and making sure, and we have a slide at the end where we've updated transportation. Next slide. Well, actually, let's go to Mount Hope. All right, so thank you. So Mount Hope is gradually in the process of returning more students to class. A number of students based on academic and or social emotional learning profiles have returned and will continue to return through the end of this week. Beginning next week, seniors will transition on Tuesday to in-person. Freshmen will transition on Thursday. Juniors and seniors will transition in full the following Monday, which is May the 3rd. Thank you. Yep, I think we're good for for Mount Hope. All right, so again, desks are 3 to 6 feet apart. Students will eat in classrooms, cafeterias, or gym, maintaining 6 feet of distance. So there is new guidance from RIDO. RIDO and RIDE are allowing students to eat within 3 feet of distance of each other. And I've looked at that. I've looked at the CDC guidance. And again, I remind everybody that our focus has always been on maintaining the health and safety of students and staff. And so I have required our schools to maintain 6 feet of distance when our young people are eating. I think it is safest. And I understand that RIDE and RIDO allow something different. But I still believe that that 6 feet of guidance, 6 feet of distance is the gold standard. And that is something that we should do for all of our students. Next slide. Keep going. Keep going. So just really important. We talk about social emotional learning. It is critically important that all of our students at all grade levels have access to programming that will support their wellness and their development. And so our staff, social workers, psychs, school counselors, student advocate are working together to build those plans for our students at the elementary, middle, and high school level. Next slide. So in terms of when students are returning, we expect that beginning on April the 15th, there will be all of those students at the elementary level that would like to return are returning. For KMS on April the 26th, and for Mount Hope, seniors will start to return on April the 27th. Next slide. So as I mentioned, here's the updated RIDE guidance. Again, they are in agreement that they support the 3 to 6 feet physical distance between students in class. They have changed and they believe that it's okay for the 3 feet to eat. Again, I looked at the CDC guidance. I've looked at subsequent guidance that they've put out where they want to maintain 6 feet of distance. And so I've made the decision that we're going to maintain that 6 feet of distance, which I believe is in the best interest of student safety. Next slide, please. So I think this is a really important update for our students and our families that need to utilize transportation. RIDE has and RIDO have changed the maximum occupancy they've increased it up to 75%. And so basically it means that we can put up to 58 students on a bus. That means we should be able to accommodate just about every student on buses, unless there is a particular bus that just is really crowded, and that would typically be at the elementary level. Parents are able to work with their schools, submit that information to our transportation coordinator, and we will get those students routed. It is important to know that when that occupancy level increases, it means that students will be sitting next to other students that may not be in their family or in their pod. That is a decision that they've made. I recognize why they made the decision, but it is something that I think our parents just need to be aware of. And if parents have to make a decision about whether or not they believe it is the right thing to do to allow their students to ride bus transportation. Can we go back to the slide that talks about hybrid? I did move past that really quickly. I just want to talk about that really quickly. I think it's slide 13 or 14. Yep, right there. So sorry, 12. All right, so we had talked about hybrid learning. We mentioned it at the last presentation. Thus far, I've received approximately 5 emails to the principal and myself concerning hybrid learning. Again, hybrid learning will occur on a case-by-case basis due to the unique academic and social emotional circumstances of a student. For parents, please email the principal and myself if that is something that you would like us to entertain. And with that, I will take your questions.
Dr. Bryce, I have a quick question that is, because obviously with the April vacation coming up, I know that the sort of guidance is that if you have been traveling, you should really wait 4 or 5 days to even take a test. Like if you're on vacation on Saturday, the chances of any potential infection showing up on a test on Sunday are pretty slim. You really should wait until Wednesday. So if people are traveling for April break and they don't get back into town until Saturday or Sunday, and then they're doing the right thing and they're going to wait before they test their kids and send them back into schools, what will those children do in that week after spring break?
So and that is a great question, Mrs. Piper. Certainly our nurses have actually put out guidance, and we put it out on Friday to the entire.
You're on mute, Dr. Bryce.
Sorry. Certainly our school nurses put out guidance to the BWRSD community on Friday. We will make sure that that guidance is on our website. We are closely monitoring the situation as it relates to the rate of infection for the entire state. I know that tomorrow on the superintendent's call, we will have individuals from RIDE, hopefully from RIDO, and their medical professionals just to look at it and to make a determination. But it is very important for those individuals that are going out of state to make sure that if they're visiting those hotspots, that they are following the guidance, that they are staying home if they've been in those states, waiting to get tested or waiting for the quarantine period. If they notify the school, we will certainly provide distance learning for their children.
Dr. Bryce, I'm not going to entertain any school committee questions right now because last time we couldn't entertain any of the public. So I'm going to let the public ask their questions first, and then I will come back to the school committee. And I see that Jennifer Davies has her hand raised. Jennifer, could you just tell us what town you're from, please?
Hi, yeah, I'm from Bristol. I have a KMS specific question.
Go ahead.
So I've been told 2 different stories about whether or not they're breaking apart. So my son has been hybrid this whole time. It's gone very well. Thank you, guys.
So hold on, Mrs. Davies.
Yeah.
So before we talk about the individual situation with your child, you know what I would suggest? If you would, I don't want you to give your number publicly. If you will email me, I will call you this evening along with Dennis Morrell, the principal, and we will talk about your issue. I just don't want to talk about an individual student's issue publicly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not about individual students. The question is actually, thank you, Dr. Bryce. I appreciate that. Is actually more about pods. So the pods have worked out. You know, my son goes to the school with the same pod, the 3 days, 2 days he's there. Will the pods be dissolved to add in new students and kind of shaken up, or are we sticking with the pods that we're in now?
So my understanding, and I think Dennis is here, my understanding is that the pods will add some of the distance learning students, and then they're expanding, but once they expand, they will be stable with the expansion. I don't know if Dennis is here and can weigh in. I see him.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bryce. So in order to maintain 6 feet, we're still going to maintain 6 feet of distance at KMS in all of our classes. So in order to do that, we had to create another section of in-person learners. So we are still following the pod model, but the pods will be a little bit different.
Okay, so the pod model will be maintained, but not necessarily the pods that they've been in.
That's correct.
So does every child now stand a chance to be removed from the pod they've been in?
No, what we've done is I left it up to the teachers on each team to shift the students, but they all have the same teachers, and in most of the cases we've just taken virtual students that are left behind and put them into those synchronous learning pods.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question since I have the floor. Are the kids remaining in their classrooms, as I understand it, and the teachers will still continue to move?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't see any other hands raised. Anybody from the public have a question? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Cabral, you had your hand up.
Yes, Dr. Bryce, where you talked about the academic, emotional, social emotional circumstances, I think you should have put medical in there also.
Absolutely. You know what? That's a good catch. And so certainly anybody that has a medical condition that would require us to take those steps, it is likely that we've already done those things. But if some parent out there has a child that has a medical issue that would impact their ability to either be in person or distance, please let us know.
I have about 3 questions, but the other question I have, why is it that different schools have different distances for the desks?
So that is based on the size of their classrooms, the number of students that they have. So all of our buildings are unique, and they have a unique physical layout, and the number of desks and the spacing between those desks is a configuration or combined both the number of students in the class, the size of the class, the type of desk in that particular room. And so all of those things go into the determination as to whether or not you can maintain 6 feet or whether you need to decrease some between 6 and 3 feet.
The other question, well, I have 2 more questions, but the next question is, why at Kickamue is it, why do we specifically have to say that a teacher has to have a 6-foot distance? Well, we don't say that for any other school.
So why do we have to say? So I would say this: we want 6 feet of distance for all of our staff. And I know that as we have talked, we want to make sure that all of our staff are maintaining that distance. You know, we've called it the teacher bubble. We want to make sure that they are maintaining that to the best of their ability. But we also know that it is very likely that the greatest risk is between adult to adult transmission in any of our buildings. And that's why it's so important that everyone continues to practice those mitigation strategies, that they're wearing masks, they're wearing face shields if they choose, frequent hand washing, and things like that.
So we should assume that every school teacher should stay 6 feet apart. Is that about right?
We should assume that all teachers, to the best of their ability, are maintaining that 6 feet of distance. I will tell you that my elementary principals absolutely tell me that it is nearly impossible for early grade teachers to be that removed all the time from their children.
Being certified as an elementary teacher, I can tell you that they definitely are not staying 6 feet apart. Guaranteed.
We know.
But I just want to bring that up so that every teacher knows it. The next question I have is, I think Rido is wrong, definitely wrong, and I think you are right. If they're in the cafeteria, I assume they're not going to be wearing masks because they're going to have to be eating. But I assume in the classroom, they will be wearing the masks. So in the classroom, mask 3 feet, fine. But in the cafeteria, 6 feet, no mask, fine. But I can't imagine Rido staying 3 feet in the cafeteria. That should not be done at all. And thank you very much for making sure that our students are 6 feet apart in the cafeteria.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Cabral, next time you need to time yourself.
Sorry, Marge. I'm part Irish. What can I tell you?
Just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I'll try better next time.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Yes, Aaron, you're muted.
Thanks.
Just Aaron, I'll time Aaron. Okay.
No, you won't.
Oh, come on. Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One is, I'm wondering if there is any information on how many kids are coming back, because I'm wondering, what is the plan, for example, for a class in the high school of 30 kids? If all of those kids are coming back, I'm not sure I understand how that 3 foot distance between kids could possibly be accommodated. So I'm wondering if you all, think you pretty much have those numbers, if at this point, which I know is early because I'm sure parents are still getting their determinations into you. But if you're seeing any classes that large, because like in my mind, the max would be like 25 kids in a classroom, and that could be wrong. So please correct me on any of this. I know that some of these kids are in classes that are 30.
Yeah,
And
so
I don't know what that looks like. And just real quick, to go back to the teachers staying 6 feet apart. I'm sorry if I missed a little bit about that, but is that from each other, from students? I know Victor kind of just brought that up, but if a teacher needs to assist a student, isn't there a certain amount of, time they can't be within that 6 feet, but they can make that determination to be with masks on within that 6 feet for less than 15 minutes?
absolutely.
And
So
then I'd love more information on transportation and how we are going to fit as many kids as we need on the buses with 3 foot distancing. And do
Yep.
we have enough buses to accommodate that? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me take them in reverse order. All right. Excuse me. In terms of transportation, there is no 3 feet requirement on buses. The requirement for buses is a number, right? And so basically what they've done is they've increased the capacity. So our buses seat 71 elementary students. Maximum, they seat about 58 middle school and high school students because they are 12 seats, both sides. You'd think typically 2 students per seat. If they're really small, that's how you get the larger number. There is no 3 feet requirement The requirement is just a raw number. And so as long as we don't go over the number that RIDE and RIDO have provided, we'll be fine. And so the transportation folks are working through that now. And they have not told us that we have any buses that are exceeding that number.
So can I ask a question on that
Yep.
one point? How does that make sense? Because I just don't understand it. If one of the students, for example, is picked up first and it takes longer than 15 minutes to get to school and is next to another student who's not in their pod at school or at home, like,
Correct.
why? I guess. I'm just
So let me
confused.
tell you what would happen in the event that we had a student that tested positive on the bus. First and foremost, the procedures are that students on buses have to have assigned seats. The bus has to maintain a seating chart. They need to update that seating chart once a week, right? Every day they need to be able to tell us who was in school, who wasn't in school, because that is part of the information that is pulled when we have a confirmed case. Based on the seating chart, there would be a number of students who would be required to quarantine. The health department would require them to quarantine because they were within close proximity of the individual that tested positive. And so they have that in their guidance, and we would follow that and report that information to RIDO. So they are allowing individuals to sit together as long as they are masked, even though they are not in the same pod. The expectation is that if there is an infection, they're going to take a sizable number of students on that bus and quarantine them. Let's talk about the teacher and the 6 feet apart. What we're really talking about is the ability of teachers to maintain that 6 feet of distance from their students. We know at the early grades, in some cases it's difficult. At the upper grades, we know that we've had a few situations where maybe that was not maintained. Here's what we're asking, right? So this is here, but we've done enough of this all year. Being a close contact means that you are within 6 feet of that individual who tested positive for 15 minutes or more. And so we really are asking all of our staff to be extra mindful as more students come in about the importance of maintaining that 6 feet of distance. And then finally, at the high school, you mentioned class size. I don't know if Deb is with us right now. I'm assuming she is because she's up next for a presentation. But I have not been informed that we have any class sizes approaching 30 in any of our classes. If Deb or Michelle King is here or Rob Hanlon, I would ask them to give us an update on that number.
Hi, Dr. Bryce. I am here. Hi. At this time, we are at about 75% in person, 25% full distance, based on our current numbers. The classroom sizes are not over capacity. We are actually just about finished setting up all of our classes. And all of our classrooms right now are 3 feet apart at their desks, a minimum of 3 feet apart for their desks. So right now we feel like we're in pretty good shape. But as our numbers get more fine-tuned, we will have a better idea.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I have the question. I don't think she answered the question about 30 students in one classroom. Are there any classrooms that are too large?
No, at this time, we don't have any classrooms that we're looking at in person that are 30 or more. We do have some structured resource classes that are larger, but we are housing them in the library, so we're able to separate them appropriately. But other than that, right now, we're not looking at any in-person classes that are at 30.
So whatever size the class is, they will definitely be separated to the distance that we're talking here.
Absolutely correct.
That's all that I wanted. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Now we're going to move to the last presentation of the night, which is kind of exciting. So Dr. Bryce.
Yep. So let me just start. So we know that last year we worked really hard to make sure that our graduates had the type of senior activities and graduation that would be memorable. We certainly think it was. We had a great time out in front of Mount Hope, as well as in the parking lot at KMS watching the graduation. This year, we're going to return to a little bit more of a traditional graduation, but there will be some changes. We're very excited about the work that our families, our high school families, Dr. D and her team, as well as the district team, including the director of facilities, have done to make this new graduation come to fruition. The other thing I would like to share is that for KMS, we're working on the KMS transition plan, and we will have more information about that at the May workshop. But for right now, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. DiBiase.
The floor is yours, Dr. D.
Thank you so much. I am actually so very excited to share what our plans are for the end of the year events and for graduation for our class of 2021. Ryan, do you have the slide deck? Awesome. Okay, wonderful. So you can proceed forward. So I thought it was important to mention that every year our freshman class comes in, when our freshman class comes in, when they are in 8th grade, they choose a quote that goes on the back of their t-shirts that we give out, their first Husky Fan Gear t-shirts that has their quote on the back of it, and that is specifically for them and for their class. And this is the class of 2021 quote, which is very appropriate. And move forward, please. So first, I think it's important to mention, oh, somebody's got, all right. First, I think it's important to mention, oh, somebody's not muted. I'm sorry, I'm getting some distortion.
Can you mute everybody? Rose, can you mute, Rose or Ryan, please mute everybody except for Dr. D.
So sorry. So I think it's important to mention first and foremost that throughout any of the events that we're planning, we're really we'll continue to take priority for the health and safety of all those that are in attendance to any of the events. These are just our general guidelines that we've used for all events that are just the general guidelines. And I do want to just about an hour before the presentation, I received updated or new guidance on and spring events from Rido and Ride that we're in the process of reviewing that guidance and those guidelines, and we'll tweak our plans according to what those are. But my first adjustments I think that we'll have to make. So you can move forward. Don't need to read the slide. And so continuing on, actually, can you go back one, Ryan? Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's typical to what we have for all of our events. These are our school rules as well. Maintaining social distance, appropriate mask wearing, hand sanitizing, and our COVID-19 screening forms. And if you jump ahead, we are strongly recommending, on the next slide, We have currently scheduled, and the guidance may change this slightly, but we currently have scheduled 2 Binax Now testing dates designated specifically for our seniors, June 3rd and June 10th. June 3rd is the day before senior prom, and June 10th is the day before graduation. And we're strongly recommending that all seniors who are participating in any of the senior class events are tested on those dates. And like I said, these may change slightly depending on the guidance that we just received, but we need to review that carefully and make adjustments accordingly. And once again, we will only test students who have a completed COVID-19 testing consent form. Okay, you can move forward now. Thanks. So we're going to start with the best. And I'm so very excited because we are planning to have our class of 2021 graduation ceremony on our varsity field, the Mount Hope High School. I was corrected. It's not the football field. It's the varsity field. So we're really excited about that. The date is scheduled for June 11th, which is a Friday. And I'll tell you why we did that in a moment. The time is at 6 p.m. And the graduates will line up in Mount Hope High School. And then when the time is appropriate, we will process it down Chestnut Street, up the entrance to the field, and then they'll process onto the field. So we're really excited about that. We decided to do the graduation on Friday evening or Friday late afternoon to keep Saturday as a rain date. Fingers crossed, it's going to be a beautiful day. We'll move forward from there. But we're really, really excited about that. And a lot of logistics involved, but we're working through all of those pieces now, and we're confident it's going to be a beautiful ceremony. So senior and end of year events. I'm not going to read through all of this, but our typical events that we would normally have that we were unable to have in person last year. We're so excited that we are going to have them in person this year. However, what we're going to find is we may have limited attendance depending on what that current guidance says, and the size of the student body who is participating. So for example, for World Language Honor Society, depending on how many students will be being awarded and where the ceremony is, we'll have it in the auditorium, and they may have up to 2 guests per student for those events. Similarly with the sports awards nights and National Honor Society. You can move forward, perfect. So we are also having a senior visual art show, which we're really excited about. It's going to be an outdoor art show with indoor displaying of all of our senior artwork and ceramics. They'll actually be in the windows facing out into the courtyard and also out into the bus circle area, so that people will be able to see all the artwork like you're looking at window dressings, but we're really excited about that. And then we're also planning a live outdoor spring concert with our performing arts. So we're really excited about that. That is going to take place in the Mount Hope High School senior parking lot. Folks will be able to come and see it, bringing their own lawn chairs, blankets, things like that. So we're excited about that as well. And you can move forward. So everybody has been talking about senior prom. Senior prom on our original venue, which I won't mention the name, about a month ago, canceled the event. So we were scrambling looking for a new venue, and our amazing class advisors were able to secure the Harrishoff Museum on June 4th from 6 to 11 p.m. It will be an outdoor catered sit-down dinner. It'll be served under a large tent by the waterfront. So again, our students are really excited about that. We did find out today, with the guidance that dancing is going to be an option. And people say, how is that possibly an option? So what they're doing is they call it table or pod dancing. So students who are sitting at a table will be considered a quote unquote stable pod for the prom. They will be allowed to dance in their pod only. They will, we're working on all of the logistics, but certain tables will get called up onto the dance floor or a specific location so that they'll be able to dance. Again, we're happy that our students are going to be able to dance. Unfortunately, only senior students are going to be allowed to attend the senior prom and other senior events because of our maximum capacity and the guidance that we have. But we have a prom, so we're thrilled about that. Okay, we can move forward. And these are some of our other senior week activities that we have. As many of you may know that several years ago, we started a tradition where seniors do what we call the senior walk, which is an amazing experience where on the day that our seniors receive their cap and gowns, we go to each of the schools in the district. We start at the high school and then go to the elementary schools and then to the middle school. And typically the seniors will walk the halls of each of the schools, and the students and staff at the schools celebrate them, line the hallways typically, and it's usually very, very emotional and wonderful to see. What we're planning on now is really looking at what are some alternative ways to do that. And, you know, some of the things that we're looking at are having it outdoors and having some of the students in the building come outside, and the students, you know, the seniors maybe walk around the outside of the school, things like that. So we're working on the logistics for that, and that will be to be determined. Next slide. And finally, our class awards night. Typically, again, for those of you who know what we do normally for graduation, typically class awards night happens at Roger Williams in the field house. All of our graduates will typically attend. This year, again, due to size limitations and capacity of indoor events, we are going to hold class night in our gymnasium. And seniors who are award recipients will attend with 2 guests so that we can keep the numbers where they need to be, and also be able to have, again, an in-person class awards night. So we're thrilled about that as well. And I did have a video, but we're not going to show it. We can just jump right to answering any questions that you all may have. So compared to, you know, I was so excited last year that we were able to pull off so many senior events virtually, the drive-in movie, you know, drive-in graduation ceremony, we, you know, so much that we did, but weren't able to do anything in person. I do have to say that I'm disappointed, Dr. Bryce, that the guidance that I read said absolutely no handshaking and hugging during, and with the students getting their diplomas.
I knew you were going to have a concern about that.
I was disappointed, but needless to say, like I said, based on the new guidance, we'll go through, we'll tweak, make some minor adjustments as needed, but we're in great shape, folks. So, questions?
Thank you, Dr. D. Most of you are muted. Does anybody from the school committee have any questions of the principal? Yes, Mr. Cabral. This is question night. Jeopardy.
All right, I'm only going to give you 3 minutes. Here we go. How how many people are going to be allowed to go to graduation, and they're going to be seating. And the other thing is, and Dr. Bryce has shared this with me before, we know the conditions of that field, and I hope it is cleaned up before we have our graduation. Because right now, I wouldn't want to put anybody on that field with the stuff that's on that field right now.
I wear my work boots when I go out on the field, Mr. Cabral.
You need more than that. Thankfully, you don't play football and your face goes into it. Because
Yes.
that's the issue. We
Well,
want,
we need some grape juice spray, and we need it.
see, you brought it up,
Food.
Marge. No, we need a sod field. I wasn't going to say it, but I'll tell you. I mean,
Let me tell you, I was at the football game in Middletown on Friday night when our
Nice.
boys played. Oh, it's gorgeous.
All right,
Absolutely
it's not on
gorgeous.
all right. Well, that was
Okay.
my question is how many
Stand up,
people? How many people?
So each graduate will be allowed a maximum of 4 guests for graduation.
And the people will be able to stand on the side up on the hill or like that.
So in terms of seating for graduation, they'll be allowed 4 guests. If folks, decide that there's some, they wanted to be up on the hill or, kind of where people hang, I think that's really kind of up to them. I did meet with the Bristol Police Department today, and we spoke at length about police details and so on for the events. But in terms of not assigned seating, but in terms of seating for graduation, we're going to have the guests will be seated in chairs along the track and in the bleachers, and we're able to comfortably fit 4 guests per graduate.
And on the prom, I have to say that I am very happy that it is at Herreshoff's and in the town. And it's nice to keep the kids here on a prom night. The other thing is, I don't know how you can do it, but how do you just only have seniors where there are certain romances that are across the grade levels or even different schools?
Yeah.
So that,
Yes, it's been a challenge.
That won't go because of that.
There may be, unfortunately, be some people that won't be able to, that will choose not to attend. From our standpoint, because we need to keep those numbers down, we needed to be able to guarantee that all seniors could attend. So, last year we weren't able to have a prom. This year we can. And so I think at this point in time, it's really the best that we can offer. If things change, we've been kind of saying all along, if things change, we may be able to open it up. But at this time, we can only allow the seniors. And you're right, there are certain romances that are cross grades, cross schools, things like that. But the kids are thrilled.
A waiting list, maybe? I don't know, a list that in case it opens up. I mean, you say, I don't know how many people you can do that, maybe 200, whatever it might be. You end up having 150. Could 50 people be selected? I'm just suggesting.
It's something definitely.
It's just a headache,
Yep.
Sorry. I'm done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I just think that after this past year, the ability to be together as a group and celebrate their last weeks of school is an exciting event for all of them. And I'm very pleased that we've come this far, that we can take the chance and do this. So are there any questions from the audience of Dr. D? If not, thank you. Let us know how many of us you want. And I think for everybody who's invited, officials, etc., please remember to RSVP, because that's a seat that somebody doesn't get if you're not there. So if you're not going to be able to make it, please let the school know.
Awesome. And yes, we would love all of you to attend. I think it'll be amazing. And Madam Chair, you and I will be able to talk about your speech too. So
it'll be a very short one.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And I did just want to thank everybody that's been involved in helping. We have such a generous community. with us able to secure Herreshoff. Same thing with our senior hangout, which is in lieu of our normal senior trip, where Mount Hope Farm was extremely generous as well. So our community, our parents, everybody has been just so generous and overwhelmingly wonderful support. So thank you to all.
Dr. D, you do have a question. Ellen Sharp? You're muted.
Hi, I actually have a question, and thanks for everything that y'all are doing. I actually have a question about the prior agenda item about the students going back full-time to Mount Hope for the student. Is it okay if I ask this question now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. For the students who are remaining full distance learners, with the elimination of the virtual Mondays, what type of support are the virtual learners going to get that they've been receiving on the virtual support Mondays? Because those have been wonderful.
Yeah, so great question. We actually are going to speak with a number of representatives from the high school staff, Dr. D and her team, the district team, and figure out how we're going to support those students. The feedback on distance learning, I've got people that say they absolutely swear by it, they love it. I've got other people that say it really wasn't that effective for me. What I can tell you is that I absolutely was focused on getting students back into the building for that day. Having said that, I do think it is imperative that we make sure that we are able to provide some support to our students that are still distance learning. And so we're going to get answers and ideas from staff in order to be able to do that. And once we come up with something, we will certainly put that out. But we will not forget our distance learners at the high school or the middle school.
Thank you. We really appreciate all your support.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Bryce. Let us not forget to continue to update this on our agendas until everybody's back.
Yeah,
And
so you know what, Madam Chair, at the regular business meeting, we'll just give an update on how the return has been.
okay.
All right.
I just want to make sure that we continue to update people on where we are and what's happening. And if anybody has any questions, we can answer them. And if you have any specific questions, as Dr. Bryce said, please email him or your principal. And for those questions, correct, Dr. Bryce?
That is correct.
And having said that, the only other thing I wanted to say tonight was that we will start meeting in person in May. So with that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Marge.
Thank you, Nikki. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. And Dr. D, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Have a great night, everybody.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Good night.